Have you ever considered the importance of John the Baptizer? Now, I want to say something. I hope you'll pay very close attention to me here. I really believe that apart, obviously, from Jesus and apart from Paul, I really believe that John the Baptizer is the most important, the most significant, and yet the most ignored eschatological figure in the entirety of the New Testament. Why do I say that? Well, I say that because Isaiah chapter 40 said, "Behold, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God." Point number 2, Malachi predicted, Malachi chapter 3, verses 1 and following, "Behold, I send my messenger before your face, and he will prepare the way before you." Now, both of these prophecies predicted the coming of one to prepare for the coming of the Lord, quote, in judgment. Watch this. Back to Isaiah chapter 40, the voice of one crying in the wilderness would prepare the way of the Lord. The way of the Lord for what? Well, verses 11 or 10 and 11 said, "Behold, your God shall come, and his reward is with him." Thus, the voice of one crying in the wilderness would prepare the way of the coming of the Lord in judgment. Likewise, in Malachi chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, "Behold, I send my messenger before your face, and he shall prepare the way before you, and the Lord shall suddenly come to his temple, and who shall endure the day of his coming?" The messenger would prepare the way for the coming of the Lord in judgment. What does that have to do with John the Baptizer, you say? Well, in Mark chapter 1, we find the following. Read along with me. "The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is written in the gospel or prophets, Behold, I send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way before you. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his paths straight." John came baptizing in the wilderness and preaching a baptism of repentance for the remission of sin. Guess what, folks? John was the voice in the wilderness. John was the messenger to go in front of the Lord and prepare the way of the Lord for his coming in judgment to his temple. Now, how do I know that for sure? Matthew chapter 11, verse 17, or verse 10, excuse me. "What did you go out in the desert to see? A reed shaken by the wind? Did you go out to see a prophet? Well, I tell you, one greater than a prophet is here. But this is he of whom it was written, Behold, I send my messenger before you." He's talking about John. Now, since the voice crying in the wilderness and since the messenger were both to come before the coming of the Lord in judgment, and since Jesus emphatically said that John was the voice and he was the messenger, that means John was a sign and a herald of the coming of the Lord in judgment. Folks, that is inescapable. But that's only the tip of the iceberg in regard to the importance of John. In my book, The Last Days Identified, and in my book, Who is This Babylon?, I develop extensively why John was such an important eschatological figure. I'm going to share more with you about that in upcoming segments. But that's all for now. Thanks for joining me for Preston's Ponderings. We'll see you on the flip side.